The easiest way to turn that around is to hammerhead it.
No, I don't even want to know what a hammerhead is.
Oh, that's this right here. The one and only Wes Spencer. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen. You're gonna land, right?
Oh no.
Okay. That was a good spin.
That was. Was that some kind of like stall spin kind of thing?
Yeah, we did we stalled and did a big spin.
Oh. You gotta have a good airplane to do this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah. You don't get to do this. You're not gonna get to do this on Southwest on your way home.
No.
No.
No. Those things are meant to go up and be stable, baby.
Yeah. Seriously, you're gonna take the stick. Come on, go.
Take the stick?
Stick, yeah. Somebody's gotta fly.
Switch fuel tank.
Here, that way.
This way?
Push down. Yeah, push down.
Push down?
Oh, not that much.
This thing is sensitive, dude.
Hold it like a baseball. And you're diving at like 1,000 feet a minute here. Come on. Pull up a little bit.
Ah!
Not that much. Now you're pulling cheese.
All right.
All right, getting the hang of it. Trying to get better. Just gonna go in circles. Now you're getting slow.
How do I get faster?
Straighten it out.
Oh.
And push down a little bit.
Yeah! I gotta admit, this is kind of cool. One thing I've noticed in this world is that what happens in the channel with MSPs is always about 5 years behind what's happening in the enterprise. Not because anything's wrong. It just takes some time for like things to change and happen, right? So I remember about 7-8 years ago, SIMs got really important, right? Like everyone's like, we got to start doing this log analysis. We got to start like seeing what's happening among our machines and really like check all this stuff out, right? So everyone went and bought Splunk and got that going. And everyone's like, yay, this is wonderful. And then what they ran into was, we've got so much noise here and so many alerts and so much stuff that we can't handle any of this. This is not working for us. So all of a sudden in the enterprise, out came security automation, right? Like, let's automate a lot of the things that we're seeing. Let's start, really putting into process the ability for us to handle, at scale, 90% of the activity that's happening, right? So these things called SOARs came out, security orchestration, automation, response. We still haven't seen that come out in the channel, but I think we're getting to the point now where MSPs are starting to have that fatigue of a lot of alerts, a lot of stuff happening, and how do I do this safely?
I love how you put your hands off the controls when you talk.
I figure, the real pilot, that, you'll take over when you need to.
At some point, I'll take over.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so I'll tell you what I think the challenge really is and the delay. Enterprise has an advantage that they're managing one network.
Yeah.
Multi-tenancy is really difficult.
Very.
Especially when you're serving multiple verticals. Like if we had just
approaching
all
altitude
offices, all private equity firms, all small doctors' offices, then that would be a little easier.
Yes.
Still difficult because you have people at different levels of security maturity, levels of investment in IT, different use of data and applications, different uptime requirements, right?
Yep.
But when you're serving multiple verticals, some little networks, some large networks, some that are co-managed where there's an in-house IT person, some where you're managing it all, it's just really difficult to have those tools in place and have it distinctly tuned for every environment. And I think it's tough from an innovation standpoint, both for us and for the vendors, to be able to adapt to all these different scenarios. And so I think in terms of use cases, there are thousands of use cases out there.
Yeah.
leaving
Across MSPs.
altitude.
Where, maybe it's hundreds in the enterprise.
Sure.
I think that has a lot to do.
Yeah, for sure. This is a little crazy thinking I'm steering an airplane right now, not knowing what I'm doing and what any of this stuff means.
Yeah. What are these red things?
Leaving altitude.
Red probably means bad.
You gotta push forward a little bit.
Ah!
Like weightless.
No.
A little floating.
MSPs are already really good at automation in IT, but But I think automation and security is sort of like, what is that going to look like for us, and how do we standardize that across a client base that's regardless of what industry they are? I don't think we've explored that yet enough. But I think we're getting closer and closer to really having to build a lot of maturity in that, simply because we can't continue to hire new security analysts forever. That gets really expensive, and there's a scale problem that exists there.
And look, it's a big investment, and it's a risk, especially like to be a little further out on the leading edge of innovation. You're taking a chance because it's not necessarily going to ROI.
Yeah, the other thing I've seen come out too is some of these master MSPs, that really help smaller MSPs scale and grow. Or, our friends at PAX 8, putting some of the pieces in place to say, we recognize you just don't have the staff and team to do some of this that a DKB would. It's good seeing some of that happen in place that allows them to have that space to grow. But yeah, getting into security is really hard. And also staying awake in the middle of this. Oh.
Jeez.
Woo! Something came up there.
Yeah?
Yeah. How do people barf on your plane? Like legit.
A few. It's at least a dozen now. You're doing good. My advice would just to keep it in the bag. That's the key. Keep it in the bag. I mean, we can slow those down.
Cheese.
Oh!
Cheese.
Well, we do have to get turned around. We're a bit in the wrong direction. So the easiest way to turn that around is
Cheese.
to hammerhead it.
No, I don't even want to know what a hammerhead is.
It's this right here. Gotta go up.
Oh, no.
There's water down there.
Yeah, I see the water.
Cheese.
Oh,
Cheese.
wow.
Always like to end that with a victory roll.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Still feeling good?
Nope.
Oh, let's move that micro. Let's move that mic. Oh. The one and only Wes Spencer. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you didn't have a big breakfast. Oh. Good.
I ate no breakfast for this reason.
Yeah, alright.
Yeah, that got me.
Yeah? Well, we are going to head in toward the airport because you just have that look like like you might want to be on the ground. You're gonna land, right?
Oh, no.
Okay.
All right, so, man, we talked a lot about cybersecurity, a lot of different topics. And maybe, has there been a time where you've looked at it and gone, man, this is just too tough. Like, the mission here is impossible. And how did you kind of overcome that? How do you get through that? And I realize, not every day is a great day in cybersecurity.
Yeah.
Maybe tell a time in your life where, man, you just had to persevere. And
I remember in the early days when we started Perch, before I met you, before I met any of my friends that were in the space, and we just come back from a conference, and we had maybe 50 leads, something like that we were going to go chase and call and follow. And I remember having a day, I was stacked up. I had 8 demos for 8 hours, no breaks. And I'm like, that's the start, that's the hustle of startup life, yay, go. And every one of those didn't go well. People didn't see the need for it. I probably was all on me with just a bad demo and not doing good discovery, and we were early in. Things didn't go well. And I remember ending that day feeling like this is not going to work. And I left a nice, cushy bank job to go start this company, and it was a pretty terrible day. It was pretty disheartening. Really felt like I made a mistake, and I didn't want to tell my family. I came downstairs and I'm like, how was the day? I'm like, oh, it was great, because I didn't want to say I made a mistake and this isn't working. And I just did 8 calls and 8 people said no. that's tough.
Yeah.
And I think really it was just persevering through and just talking to a couple of my coworkers, being like, this didn't go well, and just kind of commiserating together, but not giving up. And I think what helped was knowing that we were solving. We knew we were solving for something. We knew it was important. We just didn't give up. We just kept going. And eventually I think we found out more about ourselves than like we found out how to make the product better or something, right? And just over time, things started to fall into better place, and I think the product did mature, but we learned just better how to have great conversations with MSPs and to be patient and understand, like, sometimes you're not gonna close something day one. It takes some time to build a relationship and then talk again, and then kind of find out where they're at and see, how you can continue to help, and sometimes that takes time.
Yeah.
So that was a big one for me.
Hard conversations, I agree. Like that's it's some of the biggest challenges can be people challenges to go, this does a really great thing.
Yep.
Like, and this legitimately works.
Yep.
But I need to convince you that it works.
Yep.
And you need to see that, because look, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors in IT and in cybersecurity, and so I think it's hard to sometimes really cut through the mix.
Yep.
And be heard and see that what you're doing is great. Sometimes it's just hard to really articulate that well.
Yep. And we see the results, but no one ever sees the input that goes into it.
Yeah.
We are an instant gratification culture, and we just want everything to be successful and hit it right now. And social media is so bad about that, in the sense of, like, all you see is the hard work that someone's put in. You see the culmination, but you don't see the grit and the effort that it takes to get there. And so I think those are just moments where you got to realize, I do have a dream, I want to chase it, I want to do something, but it's going to be hard to get there. It doesn't happen overnight. I'm not aware of anybody doing anything amazingly successful that they don't have to slog to get there.
I mean, that's on all things, right? Greatness doesn't come easy. It comes through a lot of grit, a lot of failures, and this business that we're in with cybersecurity, with IT, it does come with its challenges. And so I think that perseverance is really what makes for great companies, great vendors, great MSPs.
Yep, completely agree. I completely agree. And I think the future is bright with this, right? Like, we mentioned this in the air, but we're at the beginnings here. We're 3, 4, 5 years into any amount of cybersecurity maturity down market, whereas the entire world of cybersecurity has been practiced for decades now. So, like, we're at the beginning. I think this is encouraging and exciting for people that want to get into this world now and really seize it. I think it's exciting.
Yeah, same, for sure. So Wes, social media, man, you're a pro. You got a ton of followers. I see you on there posting all the time, putting some really cool content out there. What would your advice be to others that really want to embrace marketing? Like, as IT people, we're usually not very good at marketing.
Yeah.
It's just something we're trying to figure out. Maybe you got some advice.
It's one of my favorite things to talk and help people with, because it's surprisingly not that difficult. I think one of the big things is you want to identify, like, your brand. Like, who are you? What makes you tick? Are you someone that's just super funny and, like, whimsical? Are you someone that's, like, really in depth and really, like, deep in thinking? And for me, like, my brand is sort of circled around, like, I want to help other people. I want to be someone that's an encourager that, like, gets people excited about the things that I'm excited about, and give them maybe a framework to start thinking about security in a way maybe they haven't thought of before, right? That's kind of wrapped up in my brand. And what's really cool is when you build your own brand and you really start to communicate that, you can bring that with you wherever you go, which is exciting, right? So if you're working for a company right now, bring that with you, and that brand gets to adopt your persona and get to use you while you're there in a really good way, and it's really symbiotic, right? And so I think the keys to becoming good at that is being consistent with it, like identifying and getting comfortable with who you are. Mm-hmm. I think that's probably one of the big challenges that people have, is we look at all these others that are out there and like, I want to be more like that person, I want to be more like that person, and you're just not. Like, that's not who you are. So getting comfortable in your own skin is big, and that is like the key to getting over that that imposter syndrome that exists. Mm-hmm. And then just being consistent, right? Like, really being consistent with what you're producing, and understand too, like, there's no concept of bad, in the sense of, like, if you're producing stuff that's coming out of your brain, whether it's written, whether it's video, like, if you go back and look at my old stuff, dude, it's garbage. Like, the quality is really bad. But that doesn't matter. It's where you get started. No one cares about that. You know, I was listening to an interview with Mr. Beast. I don't really follow him, but I know a lot about him just because he's like the #1 social media influencer dude.
On social media, right?
And yep, and he says that they go to great lengths to make everything look like they film it with an iPhone, even though they don't.
Yeah.
Because they want it to be authentic. They want it to be real, to be raw. And so I think that's where people miss, is like they're so caught up in like the perception of something they want to be rather than who they are. And that's what causes them to lock up and be like, well, I can't do it.
Yeah, it's like paralysis by analysis because
100%.
they want it to be cinema quality. Like, you don't have that $1 million camera set up in sound studio. Like, don't even try.
Yep.
Just better to get content cranked out.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
It's definitely been a learning curve for us. We're trying to figure this out every day. We're way behind where you're at on it, but like trying to get into that.
Look at this.
I have a fun hobby,
is...
and I decided to sort of embrace it.
Yeah, I love it.
Combine the work and play.
It's a perfect combination of something you're passionate about and a cool way to bring a neat way to interview people. Like, I think that's the coolest thing ever. This is fun.
I appreciate
Easily it. the coolest, most unique, funnest, creative interview style I've ever done.
Well,
so you got that going.
Awesome. So in cybersecurity, man, in business, it's really easy to get burned out, and to burn out yourself, to burn out your family. Any pointers for the professionals out there to get balance in their lives?
Yeah, you know, I think one thing I'll say, I think everyone knows, you got to find something outside of the world of computers and technology. Like, you just have to. If all you do is that, like, burnout's going to be hard and fast.
Sure.
And so for me, I've gotten into cycling, like biking. I love it. I freaking love it. It's so much fun. I never thought I would enjoy it, but bought a bike to go biking with some family on like a really long trip. It was like a 130-mile trip, and loved every second of it. So every time I get a chance, I jump out, I find a trail. I live in Florida, so it's flat, but I love it. I absolutely love doing that. So I do that a lot, and then...
Well, you're better shape than me. This doesn't really get you in shape.
Not quite, but this counts too, right? A little bit more of an expensive hobby too. Yep.
Yeah, a little bit.
Just a bit. But you kind of go a little higher and make people puke their guts out. So it's got its advantages,
It's a
right?
fun hobby. There's a lot of parallels to
Yeah.
cybersecurity.
Yeah,
IT there.
for sure. So yeah, I mean, you got to find something like that. But I also think, you know, like if you have a family, sometimes we're bad about just being in technology, just not being good family people, you know, and just to get a little personal, like, I think that's important for us. And I don't want to be that, like, I've got 4 kids. I don't want to be the dad that's absent, you know, that never, and I travel. I mean, here we are. So I don't want to be that dad. So I really do try to spend time with my kids and enjoy them, time with my wife, and really carve that time out, right? So like even when I get home the rest of this week, I'll be working from home and I've got some calls I've got to be on, but other than that, I'm gonna be spending time with family.
Yeah.
So I think those 2 things are really critical because it's just time you don't get back. You know, we just move forward in time. You don't get the memories back. You just have to relive the memories. And so if you're not building the memories, then what's the point?
My wife, after Mother's Day, was like, what I really want for Mother's Day is just to go to a beach house and just to work there. Like, I'm big on coming into the office. I think it's important for culture. But there are times where, hey, if you can do your meetings remote for a few days and you can work some half days and you can kind of do some flex time and have the kids there with you. I did like 3 interviews from the beach, which was kind of smug, of course, having the laptop at the beach behind me and people going, well, wait a second, you're actually on the beach here? But it was really a matter of just bringing in the family and letting them kind of be a part of what I was doing. And what's way more important than being successful as a business person and serving clients well is serving my family well.
Yeah.
Like being a great dad, being a great husband, that's way, way more important than anything that we're doing here.
Yep, agree.
And it just has to be.
Yep, completely agree. We have too much of this hustle culture going around, you know, of like hustle, and yeah, hustle. Let's definitely hustle. But I think more than that, you know, what are those things that last forever? You know, those memories you're building.
Yeah, you don't get that time back with your kids, with your family. So for all you cybersecurity practitioners, you professionals out there, really make time for your family. It's so important.
Yep.
So Wes, changing the world through cybersecurity. Like, what has changed your world?
I will tell you, it's not a story I tell often, but it's extremely impactful and meaningful to me. So this is now 6 years ago. It's hard to believe. I got really, really sick. There was one day I remember waking up in the middle of the night and I couldn't feel my toes. I'm like, that's weird. I must be sleeping weird or whatever. So I wake up and it didn't go away, and like I couldn't feel my toes. I couldn't feel them at all. And I noticed throughout the day it started to like that. It was this loss of sensation started kind of coming up from my toes all the way up to my knees. And my wife was getting pretty worried. She's like, hey, we need to get you checked in. I'm like, your typical dude. I'm like, no, we're fine.
Can you go
like,
to the doctor?
Yeah, like what we were talking about earlier. Like, well, I don't need this. I'm good. And then I remember a day later, I'm washing my hands in the sink and I can't feel the water on my hands. And I'm like, that's weird. So I start pouring the water under, like on my forearms, and I can't feel it till it gets up to like maybe my biceps. At that point, I'm like, okay, there's something weird. And I was having trouble walking at this point. You know, my wife was freaking out, but she just wanted to be patient. So we go and check into the doctor. Doctor had no idea what was going on. They're like, this is weird. So they gave me steroids and sent me home. And turns out it's the worst thing they could have done. So things started they kind of halted, but things weren't getting better. And as soon as the steroids wore off, things just went as bad as they can get. Wow. All my muscles started seizing up. I couldn't walk anymore. So we checked into like a national hospital, like a much bigger one of the big Baptist system hospitals. And at this point, I couldn't walk. I couldn't do anything. I could barely speak. Just 10 out of 10 pain. Like you ever had a muscle cramp? Like imagine like all your muscles cramping up. So they were like trying to figure out what's going on. All these doctors couldn't figure it out. Finally, I got a neurologist out of Nashville who had seen it before, and he's like, you have something I think called Guillain-Barré. It's an immune disorder. And he said, it's very serious. He said, we need to get this treated like right away. He said, the way your symptoms are, he goes, basically what's happening is your immune system is attacking your nervous system. And it's shutting down all your nervous systems, like all your myelin sheath endings on your nerves. And so he said, at this point I was pretty much paralyzed. So I couldn't move. I could blink my eyes, and that was about it. So I'm laying on a hospital bed. 3 days before this, everything's great. You know, everything's fine. And he said, if we don't start treatment now, the next thing that happens is it attacks your respiratory system and you die.
Dang.
So he's like, we're putting you in ICU. We're doing little finger air monitoring stuff. We're going to start the treatment now, which is like a immunoglobulin therapy kind of thing, where they basically just inject you with like thousands of people's immunity, kind of reset your immune system. And he said, but we're going to monitor you for the next 2 days, and if your blood drops at all, we're intubating you, we're putting you in a coma, and we'll see you in 3 months. Wow. And I'm like, what?
That's
so
crazy.
It was crazy. So I spent a number of days in ICU. When I finally got out, they told me, you've got a long journey in front of you. This is not you're just back to health again. You're going to have to reset your immune system. You're going to have to reset everything. So I went home in a wheelchair. Unending pain for months. I mean, I've never been suicidal, but there were dark days that it was tough. So anyway, I had to learn to walk again. I went from a wheelchair to physical therapy into like a walker, like an old person, and then a cane, and then finally started walking again. And here I am today, and I still have residuals from it, but like I can run, I can bike, I can do, like most people have no idea that happened. But I will tell you, Keith, that like radically changed my view of life, just in the sense of like life really is short. And when you're in your 30s and you have something like that happen, when prior to that you've been nothing but healthy, it just rocked my world, man. Yeah, it rocked my world. Sure. And so it gave me a new lens to look at. That's why I did Perch. That's why we started Perch. That I would not have gone and done that had I not had that experience of like, life really is short. Go do some brave things. Go do some hard things, because any of us are just a day away from something like that happening, right? So really, to me, that was my big why moment of why my career has changed in the way that it's changed, and the willingness that I have to take on some risk, to do some things that previously I never would have done. I just stayed at my bank job and been happy. Yeah.
So do you see that's sort of common in business, that people don't get out there and take risks and really embrace what's possible?
I think so. You know, I think, again, I think America is, we as a whole, our culture, we struggle. We just want to risk averse ourselves out of everything, you know? How do we, how do we deal, and even as security people, what's the risk? How do I assess it? How do I manage it? And I think there's good in that for sure, but I also think sometimes it shackles us and we want to do more and be more, and we're afraid to do and be more, right? And it doesn't have to be like, you got to go start your own business. But I think for people like you and me that are entrepreneurs, it's what we do, it's in our DNA, and it does take bravery to do that. Or maybe for you, it's something totally different, right? And taking that next step and growing in your career. Maybe you have a chance for like leadership, being a security leader in your org, and you're afraid to take that because you've always been technical, right? What does that look like? I talked to a guy the other day that was like, that's his big fear right now. So, yeah, I think the fear of failure and like our perception of risk is really what shackles us so often.
So Wes, man, what'd you think?
Dude, I'm not gonna lie, outside of the barfing, that was pretty fun.
Yeah? Good.
Yeah, that was pretty fun.
Good.
I was like, I'm not gonna barf, I'm not gonna do it. Oh, here it comes. I will give you credit, man. That was pretty slick flying.
Well, thank you.
But like I said, probably the only time I'm gonna do this with you again.
Yeah.
At least when I'm wearing a parachute.
Yeah, I don't know if you're promoting it really well for my next co-pilots or victims. Like,
well, maybe someone's a little bit.
You gotta sell it a little bit better.
Someone's a little bit more brave. It was fun. Okay, I will say that. It was ridiculous fun.